Good morning, Vandal fans, and welcome to another edition of Fourth and Downtown. I'm your host, Josh Grissom, and I'm joined with Luis the Godfather Torres this Super Bowl Sunday morning. How you doing, Luis?
Well, it's a typical morning. It's sunny, and it's basically the biggest Sunday in all around sports. Pretty much it's going to be an interesting Super Bowl, but basically for mainly one rooting interest, and that it would be Shiloh KUOI and the Denver Broncos.
Very true. We will get to that. A former Vandal alum is playing in the Super Bowl today. But before we get to that, we will talk about the men's and women's basketball games from yesterday, as well as kind of touch on some tennis, and then we will play a couple games and talk about Shiloh KUOI being in the Super Bowl today. So first things first, we'll talk about some men's basketball. The team was facing Northern Arizona yesterday. They traveled to Flagstaff for the game, and it was kind of a interesting matchup just to see where the Vandals would be at without Perion Calandret and Victor Sanders. They're playing without their two leading scorers who are out with injury, possibly the last game without Perion Calandret as of right now. And the team went to Northern Arizona, ended up falling 72-70 in a kind of a tight matchup that just didn't swing their way when they were hoping it did. And Ty Egbert finished the game leading all scorers. I believe he had, not all scorers, but leading the Vandals with 11 points. And Nate Sherwood had a double-double with 10 points and 10 rebounds. But it just wasn't quite enough. The Vandals actually kept it very close. At the very end, they had an opportunity with 3 seconds left to inbound the ball from the far side of the court to see if they could score. But Pat Ingram's half-court heave missed the mark, and the Vandals left Flagstaff with a loss. So, Luis, kind of tell me, right now they're 6-5 in Big Sky Conference play. Where do you feel like the team is at mentally after this loss?
It's pretty much very undescribable at this point because, they've been playing, this was the fifth game in a row without playing their top two scorers, and they've had a lot of ups and downs, and this one was probably a heartbreaking loss. It's each of their last 4 losses, if I recall, has been a combined total of 8 points. They have lost in very close games. Some of them would have been different if free throws were a factor in several of these losses, and then the half-court shot that just fell short. You'll expect that a lot in basketball. You just do. But when you look back at those other losses, that were just basically free throws, which is basically simple fundamental basketball, which was unfortunate that Idaho couldn't make a couple of them that would have really benefited, with the exception of Chris Sarbaugh last week against Portland State. But this is just a tough loss, and they're gonna have to hope Perion is ready to go, and hopefully the speculation is true that this could be his last game out.
Yes, they're definitely hurting without Sanders and Calandret in the lineup. A lot of tough games, but very close games that I believe if they had those X factors, they would have pulled off the win. In my opinion, I honestly believe when they're full strength that they are one of the top 4 teams in the Big Sky Conference, and whoever draws them in the conference tournament next month is not going to be very pleased when they're near full strength. But another injury report Don Berlin told reporters that senior guard Chris Sarbaugh was playing through a neck injury the other day, that he was getting it worked on all Saturday and tried to play through it. There's another guard that's having troubles for the Vandals, and just kind of not their season, Luis, as far as luck goes.
No, definitely not, especially a neck injury. I can't really speculate what might have happened, but I'm not sure if it has anything to do with his performance. It may have some when you're battling hurt, but at the same time, how would we know, basically, unless the doctors would give us information or the medical staff. But I wanted to bring back a point that you mentioned as far as if they had the top 2 scores, it would have been a different ballgame. I think pretty much a lot of people have been aware, and I think even the Fox Sports commentaries down in Arizona have pretty much mentioned it throughout near the end, how they were really impressed how Idaho has just stuck through it and really competed without their top 2 scorers. So on that light note, but at the same time, it's you're without your top 2 scorers, and especially at a critical point when it happened, you're probably going to have a hard time to pretty much establish everything. It seemed like they were there, but after what happened yesterday, I am not entirely sure at this point.
Now, I believe they are 4-4 without Calandret, and I want to say they're 1-4 or 2-4 without Sanders. So obviously that's huge because
Yeah, they won 2 games, like Portland State, the last two
okay, so
before.
I believe they're 2-4 without Sanders. Just looking at where they're at right now, almost a middle of the pack team, 14-10 overall, 6-5 in conference play. If those games that they played in were able to swing the Vandals' way, that's huge. You're looking at potentially being 18-6, and what is it? Almost undefeated in Big Sky Conference play.
Oh, that would have been. It's one of those situations that you probably are glad, and from a light note, that they're not, neither of the two are seniors. Sanders is a sophomore, Calendar a junior right now, so they still have at least one more year together to make some noise. But you got to imagine that it's one of those what might have been seasons. When you have pretty much a lot of talent and pretty much a good established group, but without your scores, even if they root for you to fight through and through without them, it's got to be frustrating when you lose all these close games, especially at a combined total of 8 points in the last month, technically.
Now, the Vandals will return home this week to face Northern Colorado on Thursday at 7 and North Dakota Saturday. And Vandal Nation will be providing coverage of those games when they occur. Now, a little bit about Northern Arizona. They were kind of struggling this year. They're 2-9 in conference play, 4-8-18 overall. Kind of surprising that they pulled out a win over the Vandals a little bit, even though the Vandals are short-staffed, so to say. But, credit to Northern Arizona for sticking through it, and that's what Coach Verlin said after the game. He said, "I didn't think we were tough enough tonight. I thought they were able to do some things that we were trying to prevent tonight. We didn't do a good enough job of sealing our gaps. We didn't do a good enough job of defending without fouling. We didn't do a good enough job of rebounding." End quote. Also, another key note, the Vandals had 17 turnovers committed compared to just 9 for Northern Arizona, so that also likely played a factor. But the team will be returning home this week for a pair of conference games. Hopefully they're able to pull those out and kind of fight for a better seed in the conference tournament next month. But now we're going to turn our attention to the women's side. And the Vandals were on the court at the Cowan Spectrum last night. Luis, we were both there to cover the game. So just give me some initial thoughts from their win. They took down Northern Arizona 76-59 and improves their record to 9-2 in the Big Sky and 17-6 overall.
It seemed like at first it was going to be really. It felt like it was going to be a very low scoring game right near the end of the first half because keep in mind Idaho has averaged at least almost 94 points in the last 3 games going in to the Cowan Spectrum yesterday, but it wasn't definitely the case. It was mostly a defensive battle. Idaho's they usually are strong in the 3-point line. They usually are really efficient about it. They out of the 27 attempts, they only made 9 of them, which you can say is relatively low compared to the 17 they had against Southern Utah or Portland State. I can't even recall. A couple of weeks back when they had that dominant run, it might have had it Southern Utah. I may have to go back and double check about it. But I digress. My initial thought is that it seems like no matter who they bring off the bench, they're going to really go out there and explode. And Newly has all the confidence, especially, and particularly Michaela Ferenc, who made 5 out of the 9 3-point shots, especially a couple of buzzer beaters, where it's pretty much become the norm for her, and everybody pretty much expects her to kind of go for it because they really believe that the true freshman can make those baskets. And that's another thing that a couple of true freshmen that off the bench have really provided numbers. On the other hand, Taylor Pierce had a really quiet night.
Yes, the Vandals have a very deep bench. John Newley is very blessed with kind of the athletes that he's been able to bring to the program. Very strong reserve players, so that when the starters are a little slow to get out the gate, the other guys can step up, and that's what Michaela Ferenc did yesterday. Scored 25 points to lead the Vandals coming off the bench. The bench actually had a total of 40 points, so that's 40 points from the bench compared to, 36 from the starters. So just some strong play from some reserve players, particularly the freshman from Walla Walla just looked absolutely fantastic. like you said, Luis, she had a couple shots right at the buzzer to end each quarter, and just was able to execute those plays well. She looked very good, almost reminiscent of, you might say, Stephon Curry in the NBA right now. Her shooting motion yesterday was very fluid and smooth, and it always looked like, when she got the ball, she knew exactly what she was going to do with it. And Allie Ford, talked to senior Allie Ford after the game about it, and she said one thing that makes her so dangerous, when she's talking about friends, is that she has a repertoire of moves to go through, and she talks about one like a pump fake, one-step dribble being her key move, and we saw that several times last night, Luis.
No, yeah, big time. And one of the things that Ford really did pretty well was kind of like covering Alyssa Rader from the Lumberjacks, who averaged about 15 points a game, and only got her to only score just free throws and no field goal shots. So it was newly openly admitted at first he wanted to get everybody to cover her, but then he decided after that hot run at the start that he decided he's gonna give Allie the opportunity to stop her, which pretty much really worked. And he specifically said as long as he has all the confidence for her, as long as she doesn't commit many fouls, which for Idaho's side, for the most part, they've done a pretty good job with not fouling. It was relatively a fairly clean game from the foul lines. Not that many fouls compared to what we usually see in the men's, but obviously it's a different physicality.
What was really unique about this game is that the Vandals didn't quite get off to a hot start. The Lumberjacks were actually shooting incredibly well early in the game. And at one point, the Vandals were down 8 points, I believe it was 17-9 in the first quarter. And talking with the players after the game, it was very apparent that they weren't pressured at all. They felt very loose and were joking around in the press conference and stuff. And you could almost see it on the court, too. They have good camaraderie, and they never felt pressured. And that really, I think, helped them in the second quarter to kind of claw back. And then in the third quarter to really take it away, the game. And I don't know. I think this team has a lot of chemistry, and I think that's very good, especially for how talented they are. 9-2 in conference play. To have that this late in the season, especially down the stretch with some tough opponents coming up, I think that's such a huge factor in the success of your team.
No, and it definitely is. And at this point of the year, like Ali said, a lot of people will feel tired or have been feeling tired or a little bit fatigued. So she said specifically that she hopes that the team will kind of hustle, keep going at what they're doing, but mostly polish up in the opening quarter, because they've had several instances where they had to rally from behind, and at some point, if these rally from behinds may not work in some opponents, and if they really want to be competitive against like Weber State down the stretch, they gotta have to polish the opening quarter just a tad bit, but I firmly believe they can do it. It's just gotta have to make it very effective right away, and they have been. Even though it was a low scoring game compared to the last couple for Idaho, but they still pretty much relatively won in convincing fashion, like always.
Very true. Now, let me take a look at the Big Sky rankings for women's basketball right now, because I believe the Vandals are, if not third, I believe they're second.
Last time I checked, they were third, but that was before the game ended.
And we will look that up real quick. But Luis, there's a lot of freshmen that are contributing for this team. Now you have your leaders that have seniority, like Christina Salvatore or Allie Ford, but the fact that some freshmen like Ferenz and Taylor Pierce are kind of stepping in for the Vandals, I think that's great because it's getting them some experience, vital, pivotal, early experience in their careers. But the fact that the freshmen feel comfortable enough to be able to produce the numbers that they're doing right now is absolutely fantastic.
No, it has been pretty fantastic how they are able to do it, like pretty much staggering numbers. Like the top two leading scorers in a single game our freshman Taylor Pierce with 27 against Iowa State on November 28th, and Saturday with Michaela Ferenc with 25. So it kind of shows you how that they've been really explosive. In some instances, it's just moved from the 3-point line, like Pierce with her 27, and Ferenc were five of them. So they've done a pretty much an outstanding job this season, and it's just let's see what they'll do down the stretch, because they're gonna definitely need it if they really want to be like top seed and become premium contenders in the legit contenders in the Big Sky Conference, which I believe they are a legit contender. But as long as they keep on playing like they are, just polish a little bit, a couple things, especially in the opening quarter, I think they pretty much will be unstoppable, and they have been unstoppable in a lot of instances this season. They've won 7 out of the last 8 games, 4 in a row for that matter. So it kind of shows you that down the stretch that you got to be solid, you got to be ready, and they've been ready.
Idaho is currently ranked 3rd in the Big Sky Conference standings with a 9-2 conference records. The 2 teams above them are Montana State with a 10-1 conference record and Eastern Washington with a 10-1 conference record. And keep in mind that Montana State game is the really close game that the Vandals lost. I believe they're 1 loss in the last 8 games for them, so that was kind of key. Montana State hasn't done a lot of losing. They're 17-5. Vandals are 17-6. So, but I think one of the teams to worry about right now is North Dakota. 7-4 conference record. They're kind of in the middle of the pack, but they're on a 6-game winning streak right now, and they will host the Vandals on Saturday. So, very big meeting, potential impact for conference standing, like the final conference standings next month, and that'll be on Saturday. So check out watchbigsky.com. I believe they will be streaming the game for all the Vandal fans. Well, let's turn our attention real quick to tennis. We'll get a brief update in before we have a kind of a fun end to our program. Luis, you wrote something for Vandal Nation on the Vandals trip to Portland this last week. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Basically, after the defending Big Sky champions of Idaho came into Portland 1-0, they swept UC Riverside in pretty much in convincing fashion. But it was you would imagine it was going to be the case. I was imagining it was going to be like this for throughout the season, but it was definitely not the case yesterday against the Portland Pilots at the Louisiana court in Portland. It's kind of interesting how they called it the Louisiana court, even though it is in Oregon, but that's just a different story. But no, Idaho were swept by the Pilots 7-0. Most of them were kind of like pretty much like 6 points, mostly one-sided, with the exception in one match in singles when you have Maceo Garcia narrowly defeated Brazilians Aro Vandal Felipe Fonseca 7-5, 7-6 in 2 sets for the number 2 court. That was basically the only match that was more than 6 points as far as the winning score. So he kind of put some pressure into it. But in doubles, we were able to win a match. But how doubles works is that you have to win 2 out of the 3 to get the point. So despite Idaho not getting the point in doubles, they did win a matchup, absolutely. When our very own Felipe Fonseca and Odin Barta defeated Ken Andreasen and Carlos Donat from Portland in a 7-5 victory. So the Cousins, no matter, despite not being like their best performance in a young season, they still had some highlights, and even the coach of Portland said that they definitely respect the team. They always come out very competitive from his side, so some praising, but obviously the Vandals had to turn it around going into Seattle U today, which probably will get a later update as the Super Bowl game progresses.
Or not. You never know. The Super Bowl, everybody kind of takes a few hours off, so we will definitely try to get those updates, but you never know when media relations will be able to release that, but hopefully pretty quick we will provide updates on Twitter when we hear them. But now we turn our attention to a Vandal taking a very big stage tonight. Former safety Shiloh KUOI, University of Idaho graduate, will be taking the field for the Denver Broncos tonight at the safety position, and his story is very interesting. He was a free agent. He was released by the Bengals at the end of the the end of the preseason, and kind of didn't have a team for a while. And he played for the Texans for a couple years. So Wade Phillips was his former coach. Wade Phillips is the defensive coordinator of the Broncos, and the Broncos just happen to have a slew of injuries to their secondary, particularly in the safety position, and they kept signing all these guys. So he tweeted his coach. I believe this was December 9th that he tweeted Wade Phillips, campaigning for a spot on the team and asking, Coach Phillips, have you forgotten about me? And Phillips responded like, no, we haven't forgotten about you. Hope all is well. The next week, they have another safety get hit with an injury, and then they signed Shiloh Keogh. So an interesting kind of a social media campaign for a job that works in the NFL. I guess if you ask hard enough, then you'll get it. But he played a pivotal role in the season finale for the Broncos. They were fighting. They didn't know if they'd be like the 6th seed, the 3rd seed, the 1 seed. And he had an interception of Phillip Rivers late in the game when it was tied in Broncos territory, in Chargers territory, to set up, a touchdown for the Broncos that, clinched them that number 1 seed, gave them home field advantage all throughout the playoffs. And that proved huge in the AFC Championship game on 2 Sundays ago when they were hosting the Patriots. Shiloh Keogh actually recovered the onside kick by New England with 12 seconds left in the game. New England trailed by 2 points, 20-18, after a failed 2-point conversion, and he was the one who recovered the onside kick, and he was jumping up and down with the ball, running to the sideline, and the whole stadium was erupting. I think it was a very special moment for him, and kind of made a lot of university alumni proud to see our players taking such a huge role for the Broncos, even though the game was almost sealed. But if that had gone the Patriots' way, you can imagine how this would be a much different story.
It would have been a different story. Like, it comes to show you sometimes that you have to compete in all 16 games, because you can sort of say that New England sometimes would not do it. That's why they would lose to those not so great teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, and a fairly decent New York Jets. It comes to show you that you got to compete in all 16 games no matter what. And I think Denver had that hesitation that they had to compete without Peyton Manning and with Brock Osweiler playing at quarterback. That it comes to show you that you had to play all 16 games. In New England, I feel like they don't do that every once in a while because they felt like they were very comfortable. But then after losing to Philadelphia and the New York Jets, it comes to show you that they really need to play like any game, like if it's like the championship game, which New England in my book, tends to be a weak spot for them sometimes.
All right, Luis, we have just a few minutes left, so we're going to play a game, and it's going to be thumbs up or thumbs down. Are you interested? We'll start with one from last night because I already know what this is going to be. Last night, ABC hosted the Republican debate, and the introduction was completely botched. It's all over social media. If you didn't see, take a look. Luis, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Is it the one where they were confused who was going to come out first and
Yes.
all that, and then Jeb Bush kind of gave him a tap at Donald Trump? I've seen that one. It's like, for me, when it comes to my personal entitlement of who I root for, is definitely confidential in my book. When I have the chance, I probably give it a thumbs up just to hear what the heck Donald Trump is going to say at this point.
Looking at the title of those videos on social media, I thought this will be interesting. Thumbs up. I watched it. It's 2 minutes long, and I cringed the entire time, so I'm going to have to give this thumbs down. It was very poor, especially live on national television. Not a good job at all by ABC. All right, we will move to our second one. Luis, this will happen tonight. It's on the Sci-Fi Channel at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Pacific Time too. Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
What? Let me read that. No, I don't think I'll give it a thumbs up. No, a thumbs down. I don't know. I'll be probably doing something else.
Thumbs up for creativity, trying to schedule something that sounds very weird during the Super Bowl in an effort to attract viewers. or maybe it's just some trash programming that they're gonna put out because no one will be tuning in. Thumbs up for creativity, thumbs down for the premise of the show, though.
Thumbs up for creativity, bad timing, especially if it's during the Super Bowl. Now, if it was during the halftime show, I would not blame it one bit. But, well, you have tough competition regardless. I know some people have tried to desperately put some unique, wild, bizarre, innovative stuff on the halftime show so people can tune away from the. And that's how it was back in the 90s, but that's why you have all those megastars out to prevent all that stuff. I go back to, what was it, Super Bowl 32? I know it was the one with Denver versus Atlanta. I don't even remember who was the halftime performer. I know it's probably irrelevant, so certain programming decided they're going to have a halftime show match with no people in the stands. Long story short, The Rock was in that one, but that's just a different story. But thumbs up for creativity, thumbs down for the timing and just the overall concept. I just not interested.
We have some feedback. Joey in Nampa, Idaho says thumbs up on Mega Shark. Got some fans interested in it.
No, I know a girl from Western would definitely say thumbs up on the Mega Shark. Yeah, most definitely.
All right, Luis, our next one, kind of the rival of the Super Bowl, the Puppy Bowl, will be on the Animal Planet, 7 Eastern Time, 4 Pacific Time. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
As much as I don't mind puppies, I'm gonna be watching the game. So thumbs down.
Thumbs up. What's better than a bunch of puppies? They're running around. They're playing with toy footballs. It's awesome.
No. It's just like I said, I don't mind puppies. It's just like again, but just timing is the only problem. Otherwise, I'd probably say I'll give it a look. I don't mind puppies.
For those folks vetting in Vegas. I have some advice for you. Go with the golden retrievers. Always. Fail safe. All right. And finally, Luis, the rival of the Puppy Bowl, the Kitten Bowl, will be on the Hallmark Channel.
Bowl, really?
6 Eastern Time, 3 Pacific Time. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Well, way to put it an hour early. I don't mind kittens, really, to be quite honest, but I'm more of a sort of a puppy person. Sorry, people. It's just how it goes sometimes. So I don't know. I feel like to some degree it's just a spoof of the Puppy Bowl. It's just like whatever. I'll give it a mix.
A mix. Okay, I will give it a thumbs up. If you're not a sports fan, there's nothing wrong with the Kittens or the Puppy Bowl. I think it's actually a very interesting premise, and the fact that they came up with that is a rival for it, and the fact that it's gotten so big just kind of is a hallmark of the success of puppies and kittens in general. So we're actually getting some feedback on the Kitten Bowl. 20 thumbs up from Kiana on the Moscow campus. So fantastic. Yeah, that's our lineup for the Super Bowl alternatives. So
it's just mostly timing. That's why I give it like thumbs up. As far as the ideas, like I'll give it a thumbs. Like if timing was not an issue, Puppy Bowl, I would give it a thumbs up. It's just the Kitten Bowl. I feel like a little bit mixed. We'll see, but I don't know. No.
Throw some catnip in the mix, and I think then you got a very exciting Kitten Bowl. Okay. Then you'll have to test them for PEDs, performance enhancing drugs. So I don't know about the legality of that, but all right. That's about going to do it for us today.
All right, now real quick. What do you think as far as commercials? Will it be better than last year?
Oh yeah. All right, here we go, Luis. Prediction: best Super Bowl commercial. What company?
Budweiser has been doing a really good job. I hope it may be that way. If not, I am waiting for this particular car. It's probably either going to be a car commercial or a Budweiser commercial. Just watch.
Okay, Super Bowl flop commercial for you. And then I'll give mine.
Bud Light.
Bud Light.
End of story. Or some online domain site that they'll probably plug like Battle Frog or something like that.
Okay. So for me, the Super Bowl, I think the commercial that's going to take it, Doritos has been doing this campaign where they let fans shoot their own videos, and then they use whatever video they think is the best, and they'll play it in the Super Bowl. I think that'll be pretty good. that one's always pretty solid. I don't think it'll be the best one per chance, but I think it'll definitely be a top 3. And the Super Bowl flop. I saw this commercial early. The NFL is doing their own commercial during the Super Bowl.
Is it about concussions?
No,
Oh, okay.
The premise is very odd. So there's a full commercial for it. It's like 3.5 minutes long. It's done to Seal's song "Kiss of a Rose," and the whole song is like all these different kids from different cities that were born 9 months after Super Bowl Sunday, because whichever city wins the Super Bowl has a spike in births apparently, and all these kids and some adults and stuff are singing along about how their mom and dad got it on because of the Super Bowl. To Seal's "Kiss of a Rose." It's very weird.
Okay,
And
that sounds weird. As it
they
is.
at the end of the commercial they throw up the slogan "Football is family," and it's just even more awkward. So I think that's the biggest flop from Super Bowl Sunday as far as commercials go. Thank you for reminding me about that, Luis. That was definitely something I wanted to include on today's program. But we gotta go. We have a staff meeting. Thank you for tuning in. You can definitely check out all these stories on www.thevandalnation.com, or to pick up an ARG, the Argonaut, around campus somewhere, and take a look at some of the stories. We've been putting in a lot of hard work for such a short staff, and we are trying to provide you with the best coverage of Vandal athletics that we possibly can with our academic lives. So thank you for tuning in. Luis, very quick, one sentence. Who wins the Super Bowl? Why?
Broncos humility.
Ooh, good. That's very good. I will contrast you. I'll say Panthers and swagger. So thank you for tuning in, Vandal fans. We'll be back Friday at 3:30. And you stay safe. And, even though I said Panthers, go Broncos. And I hope Peyton Manning goes out on top. Thank you for tuning in.